Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. If you need help, don't describe your gameplay, post a VoD. There is always every week there's always 3 posts, isn't there? That's a paragraph of text. That's I'm in bronze to silver. Everything's terrible, what am I doing wrong, how do I climb? You know, that is really hard to answer those questions, because it's always so vague. It's a lot easier if you've seen the person play, because then you can go, here's why you're bad at 2 minutes 56 seconds on the timeline, there's where you're bad. Why is Zen good and in a majority of competitive team comps, in Plat at least? Discord Orb and Transcendence are really good. Zenyatta, the fact that he's a support that also gets to do, DPS damage as well. Well, not quite DPS damage, but it can be also, he'll usually have, the bronze medal at least by the end of the game, as long as the Zenyatta's decent. So having a support that can do DPS as well as heal, and he can do both of those things simultaneously, right? Which no one else can really do except Lucio. They have to choose between healing or DPS. Zenyatta just gets to do both. So that's very cool. Transcendence is really good, and it's the only defense you have against certain situations. If you're in Graviton and the dragon comes through you, if you don't have Transcendence, you die. So, while it doesn't necessarily mean you win a fight, there are a lot of situations you can get into where if you don't have Transcendence, you lose flat out. And Discord Orb is really fucking good. Just look at that guy, he's so soft now. He's dead. Zenyatta's just really good like that. He's come a long way since the launch of the game, when he was, undeniably the worst hero in the game at launch, but then they fixed that pretty quick, and he's just been, really good ever since. He slots into almost any team composition because he's just, pretty well-rounded, and he has certain aspects to him that aren't really replicated anywhere else on the roster. The closest one is, Lucio, but they're both so different in what they actually accomplish that even then, there's not a lot of overlap. They just both have, the 2 defensive ultimates, pretty much. And, they don't defend you against the same things either, because, Zenyatta doesn't save you from Grav Pulse Bomb. Lucio does save you from Grav Pulse Bomb. Lucio doesn't save you from Dragon Strike. Zenyatta does save you from Dragon Strike, So even then, they both accomplish 2 different things still. But that's why. Experienced players, high-ranked players, or basically anyone with something to anyone with someone to contribute, anyone to offer up as a sacrifice. What tips would you give to a new player? I bought Overwatch today and I love it. I love it. Oh, good heavens, that'll fade. I'm already so infatuated with competitive Overwatch and really want to get good. With that being said, what would you recommend a completely new player do that will help me accelerate my improvement in this game? Focus a lot on your ultimate, because Overwatch is really based around ultimate, so whatever hero you've chosen to play, just figure out how to use your ultimate really well. That's the thing that'll help you the most early on, because ult execution remains a very important skill forever. So worry about that, and if you're worried about how to execute your ult as well, other things will tie into that, because positioning also ties into your ultimate and things like that. So if you focus on just how to use your ult really well, you'll sort of pick up other skills that are adjacent to it pretty much, because several things tie into how to use your ult well. So just kind of figure out how to do that, how to use your ult really well. Other than that, focus on basically learning what all the heroes do and the layout of all of the maps, because that's just always going to be very important for both any kind of hero-based game. You need to know what everybody does, so you know what to play around, both on your team and the enemy team. And yeah, any FPS game, you need to know what the maps are like, right? That's just a universal thing. Other than that, don't worry too much about team comp early on. That's something people get bogged down in when they're first learning the game. Yeah, it's important, but broadly speaking, there are other things that you, like, really need to know before you start worrying about that kind of thing. So, like, ult execution is, like, the big one early on, though, I would say. Because it's just so important at all points in time. You really want to figure it out early. Once upon a... Oh, it's a VoD. How to make tracking smoother. My wrist trembles slightly as I track with my arm, so I'm not sure how to track without all these jagged movements. So raising my shoulder a lot and keeping my arm off the desk seems to help me smooth movement with higher sensitivities. This hurts a lot, but my aim seems to be better. Don't want to worsen my scoliosis, though, so... unfortunate. I'm not good at tracking, so I like to snap instead, because that's easier. How to fit the team comp. Okay, so I know a lot of things that my teammates do is completely out of my hands. I noticed that even though I'm playing for a few months now, that I struggle to play around my teammates with my picks. Now, what I kind of nailed for my rank so far is that if no one wants to play a healer and I am the only support on the team, I almost exclusively pick Moira. Yep. I know her the most, and it's generally easier to keep my team alive if you're alone. Yeah, I think Moira's, like, the best solo healer you can pick, just because, like, AoE big heals pretty much makes it a lot easier. You can heal with the ball and yourself as well, so you can kind of be in two places at once. Other than that, it's pretty hard for me to figure out what to pick to fit my team best, and how I can play around the fact that my team does not want to pick main tanks. A few things I think at least I know. Mercy works really well with a decent Pharah and Bastion, sometimes even with a good Orisa, not to mention Reaper if you have another healer with you so that you can pocket him. I don't cotton to that. I don't cotton to that kind of devilment. No, 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 no. I'm not a fan of the fucking Reaper Mercy strat. Bridge can do some nasty plays with Ryan and can protect Ana really well, but to be honest, I find her extremely hard to work around when solo queue. If my friends are Ryan or Ana, the amount of usefulness I bring to the team is so much higher than with solo. Or when Ryan and Ana use voice, we can coordinate, but more often than not, I find myself alone with my tank and my entire team elsewhere. Be honest with you, when I'm playing Bridget, I just focus on bullying people. I don't really worry about playing around my team comp that much, because I'm more interested in just, like, fighting people. Even after the, like, 8,000 nerfs and more will still come, no doubt. Honestly, at this point, just take Bridget out of the game. I like Bridget. Bridget's still one of my favorite heroes, but, like, at this point, just take her out of the game, guys. We know you want to. Like, we know you regret putting Bridget in the game at this point, because it's just been a constant source of complaints. Even though whenever I see anybody play Bridget, they're always really bad at Bridget. Like, 9 times out of 10 when I see someone pick Bridget, I expect the Bridget player to feed. Because they almost always do. Probably because they got taught that Bridget is an autoplay champion, so they just run at the enemy team holding left click all the time and feed relentlessly. But no, fuck, Bridget still needs more nerfs, apparently. I don't know, it's weird. I seem to never see a Bridget play well, and yet people are always complaining that Bridget's overpowered. It's almost like people might just not know how to play around crowd control, and therefore want it taken out of the game. If I get a chance, because I'm usually texting while searching for the game, to actively select her, Moira so far has proven to be the most capable healer in my rank when solo. I mean, I like Moira in general. I mean, you know, that's pretty much it in bronze, really. It's like you're probably gonna have a lot of DPS. You have to lower your expectations significantly, because you'll almost never get 2-2-2 in bronze. So you basically just, in bronze, just hope that you get, like, a tank and a healer, pretty much. Kinda doesn't even matter which ones, really, to be honest with you, that much. Other than the support can't be an off support, really. Like, they can't be an off healer if it's the only healer, because it just kinda doesn't really work very well. That's pretty much it, to be honest with you. Like, Bridget, I find works well in that SR, just because you can punish people for mistakes, and Bridget's pretty easy to play, which is, usually important for bronze, is, like, you want somebody with a relatively big impact that's simple to play, which is why I always say Winston is one of the best heroes you can play in bronze, and silver. because he's really easy to play, has a big impact, and in those ranks, people don't know how to play against that hero, so you tend to just kind of be able to do whatever, as long as you know how to play Winston just adequately, pretty much. Bridget's kind of the same way. Bridget can also do, like, a surprising amount of healing. Like, I've played Bridget and had the gold healing medal over, like, an Anna and a Moira before. Like, semi-frequently. Like, Bridget does more healing than she seems to. So, like, Bridget's also really good in that SR just because she's good at punishing people, basically, for doing stupid shit, which they're more likely to do in that SR, and she's almost a tank as well, which helps. So if, like, you've only got one tank, but you have two supports by some miracle, you know, then if you have Bridget, you kind of, like, split the difference, pretty much. Yeah, like, Moira's, like, the best support you can pick solo. Yeah, like, that's, like, I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just, like, Moira's pretty much the best one you can pick in that situation. There, and it's really in Bronze and Silver, like, there isn't really a whole lot else to it. She's pretty much the best one. Is Zen Lucio a viable option as a duo of healers? It works sometimes. It got easier when they made Lucio's healing a little better. Like, the olden dive comp, like, the dive comp of yore, same difference, of yore, was, Lucio Zen as the two healers, because it was two flankers, Winston Zarya, and then Zen Lucio. That was the old dive comp, like, way back when. So, like, yeah, it's always been able to work. It's just one of those things that, like, when it's going well, it's fantastic. It's great. It feels like, why would you ever want any other combo of healers in the world? But when it's going badly, it's, like, actually the worst thing in the world, right? Like, it's very feast or famine in that way. It's either great or it's terrible. So, you know, if you want to try it out, by all means, like, go at it, like, give it a go right at the start and see how well it goes, especially if you have, like, it's an aggressive combination of healers. So, like, if you got a dive comp, it's more likely to work than with Death Ball. So, like, bear that in mind. Or, like, goats, because, like, that, like, big money. So, like, yeah, it can work, by all means, give it a go, like, right at the start of the match, but, like, it's one of those things where, like, if it's not working, don't stick to it, like, give it, like, 1 or 2 pushes, and if it doesn't work, it's probably not gonna work, and just give up on it and go with something different. But, I mean, it definitely can work, like, it can. So, what's the new meta? I was really struggling on the... My team was really good at goats. We were finding out it was, we're struggling to adapt to the changes. Does anyone? I don't know. I don't too much. I don't know. I'm not much about the theory craft side. Mostly just because I don't worry about it that much, to be honest with you. I don't think about it that deeply. I had an argument with a friend because he said I positioned totally wrong, and I thought I did the right thing. It was on Horizon. Second point, we played Pharmacy, Farmrick, E, Zen, Reaper Soldier, and Orisa, and against Moira Goats, and I decided to hold top left behind the corner with Soldier and Reaper while our Zen was alone on the point. Hay made a split push with 2 tanks coming from top and Moira and Lucio while Ryan and Bridge gain below, and went point where our Zen was holding alone. He died and gave me the fault because I was top with the DPS. I thought about staying on point from beginning, but because of experience, I went top because it is easier to overrun people when they stand point, and I did not want to give up high ground because of the Soldier. We won in the end, but I want to know if I did my positioning right or wrong. I mean, like, yeah, you like, usually stand on the high ground. Like, I don't know why Zen wants to stand on the point alone more than anything else, just because that can happen to him. Like, Zen just, like, if people are up top and he's on the point, he's really isolated and gonna be really easy to kill. It's like one of those things where you pretty much stand on the high ground on Horizon, and then, depending on what the team does, you move in response to that. You don't usually just sit on the point, unless you're going for, like, one of those Orisa Symmetra type, Orisa Symmetra, Torbjorn comps, you know, that kind of thing, where you do just sit on the point, like, hey, come into my death box, kind of thing. Other than that, like, you pretty much stand on the high ground and then rotate to match the enemy team, depending on whatever they're doing. Usually they'll, like, come up on the high ground to fight you, or they'll try to go under, or they'll go right. If they go right and you're up top, it's really easy. You just rotate to the, like, side of the point that you're on, and then you fight them as they try and come on it. If they go under, they usually don't, ever since they changed the map, but, like, if they decide to go under, you know, you pretty much just, like, come back and fight them. And then if they try to push up on the high ground onto you, they have to go up that narrow staircase, which is really hard to walk up, really. So, like, yeah, that's where you stand, up there, usually. Unless you've got, like, a specific strat in mind that revolves around the point, pretty much. Shaky aim in Overwatch. Is that too low? Mine's, like, 4.7, so it's not much different to mine, and mine's fine. I am having shaky aim. Will I get used to it? Is there like a time scale on here? No. If your aim is shaky, like, it might just be an experience. It might also just be that you kind of panic, in situations. Because it's either, like, you're not used to it, and, you know, you're lack of experience. You panic when you're in any kind of tense situation, so you get shaky, or you can just be a fidgety person, which is just a matter of, like, well, trying to tone that one down. If, like, it's inexperience, you know, you'll get better as you get more experience, and if it's panic, you just kind of have to, like, take a deep breath, you know, like, all that kind of, like, hippie shit, basically, just, like, take a deep breath, take a second to collect yourself, kind of thing, you know? But realistically, if you panic in situations as well, it's more a matter of getting used to being in that kind of situation, because that's the kind of problem I've had with, like, a bunch of different games, is, like, panicking in any kind of duress, pretty much. Especially, like, learning to play the fighting games. Oh no, oh god, how terrible. Oh god, I'm in the corner. Oh Jesus Christ, no, stop, please let me out. Oh god, anything but this. And now I'm just like, it's now just like sullen acceptance, basically. Like, oh, I guess we're in the corner now, you know? So, like, kind of all of it is just like, it does get better, but, like, if you're kind of a fidgety person, that takes a lot of work, basically, to try and stop that. And if you panic or inexperience, it's just, like, practice more than anything. Is this even a good sensitivity? Does it feel good? Yeah. If it doesn't feel good, no. It's basically that simple. If you're ever wondering if your sensitivity is right, just play on the sensitivity and go, does this feel good? Yes, no. If yes, leave as is. If no, change. And that's kind of how it goes. Everybody has, like, a different one. Mine's 4.7. There's, like, somebody... I remember seeing, like, this comparison chart of all the pro players, and there was one who was, like, 27. And I was like, Jesus Christ, you madman. That's insane. I think he played Winston. I think he played, like, it was one of the tank players, to be fair. But, like, I was just like, Jesus Christ. Communication tips, just moved to Korea. Well, I'm playing with people that don't speak your language. Spam those pings. I'm not gonna say that, because I don't know I don't know anything about Korean, so I could very easily just end up sounding like an idiot. Just use the pings as much as possible, basically. Top Mercy tips. Here's 2 things to help Mercy players. You don't have to always be looking at your Guardian Angel target. Sometimes it's better to use the mid-air travel time to glance around. Yes, you usually do want to do that, in fact, because knowing what's going on around you is kind of important. Just generally speaking. Kind of along the same lines as the first bum, but when you're with a Pharah, you can use the direction of the beam to tell where she is. It helps when she's not currently on your screen. Sure. Console Lucio, how to improve. Also, I unfortunately solo queue with no mic. I will attempt to show gameplay, but not something I know how to do. Well... try to be in the speed aura as much as possible, because that should be your default setting as Lucio. You want a reason to change the healing aura, not vice versa. Basically, if nobody's hurt, there's no point being in the healing aura, and even then, you can sometimes just let the... well, you can fairly frequently just let the main healer take care of it. Because it's just like, if you're not healing anybody, and you're in the healing aura, that's the same as your aura being turned off, effectively. So, you just want to... and, like... Lucio's strong because of, like, all the off supports, basically, all the off healers are strong because of their utility. So you want to try and leverage their utility as much as possible, because, like, that's the whole thing. They don't do as much healing as the main healers, but they have a lot more utility and or damage. So you try to leverage that as much as possible. Try to make good use of all of Lucio's mobility, because, like, he's one of those heroes that has, like, a lot of cool stuff you can do, movement-wise. And you'll watch a lot of Lucios just, like, walking on the ground in healing aura all the time. Like, what's the point, dog? Like, you're playing Lucio. Play Lucio, you know? Don't play Lucio like he's Zenyatta or something, you know? That's about it, you know, like generic Lucio advice, basically. How do you play Mercy into New Reaper? Well, I mean... and then New Reaper gets released, and there's, like, nothing I can do. He either drops from up top and 2-taps me, or kills our tanks while I'm healing them, and then wraiths away, and we lose team fights. I've never felt so frustrated with this game before. Oh, trust me, there's been worse than that. there's been a lot worse than that. You remember Doomfist? Yeah, you remember Doomfist. Let's see, he's basically killed all enjoyment of comp I had previously. Now it's who has a Reaper, and then who has a better Reaper. So, the thing is, it's always been that way, hasn't it? It's just always been, like, which hero it is. Like, remember when the game came out, it was McCree, right? Then for a while, like, for a little while in there, it was Widowmaker. Then it was Hanzo. Then it was Doomfist. Like, it's always kind of been that way, hasn't it? And I mean... what can you do, right? Like, Overwatch is very badly balanced, okay? Like, the more you play Overwatch, the more you learn Overwatch is really badly balanced. This is probably the best it's ever been. And it's still pretty bad, right? Like, it's still not particularly well balanced. But it's a lot better than when it was... right after Mercy got reworked, both times. When they first changed her, it was terrible, and then when they made the second change to her after the rework, it was still terrible, and then they figured it out. They were like, oh, if we just remove res, and suddenly everything's better. How about that? Like when right after Mercy got reworked was like the worst time in history, pretty much. You know, like no Blizzard game is ever particularly well balanced either, is it? Like, it's not an Overwatch exclusive issue. Like, Blizzard is not very good at balance, really. Mostly just because, like, all of their games, they're so consistent. It's just like every game they balance, it's always take turns, right? Here's the overpowered one right now. Ah, fuck, he's been overpowered for a while. Sit down there at the bottom of the pile now. Who was at the bottom of the pile previously? This one. You're on top now. It's your turn. And then they just do that over and over again. Oh, he's been up here for a few months. Down you go. Bring this one up now. That's just always Blizzard. That's always Blizzard. They haven't quite figured out Torbjorn and Symmetra yet. Thank goodness, because that's going to be bad when they figure out how to put those ones on top. Bastion was on top for all of, like, 3 seconds. Remember that one? Right after they changed some stuff about Bastion, he was really good for about 4 seconds, and then they were like, shit, this is too much. This is too much. And straight back down again. And I mean, you know, you can't ever have a game perfectly balanced or anything like that, obviously, but, like, Blizzard is, like, consistently really bad at it. You know, like, League of Legends is better balanced than Overwatch, which is an absolute travesty to think about, honestly. Like, that that's something that hurts me a lot. To think that there's a game out there that's worse balanced than League of Legends. So yeah, I don't know. Fuck Blizzard. That's the moral of that one, basically, that I got to, because I don't have anything productive to say, so it's just basically like, what can you do? Blizzard's that way. Just wait until he gets to be moved back down again. Which, hey, with Blizzard, who knows how long that could take, right? Mercy got to be overpowered for about 6 months. So that was really fun. That was a really exciting time to play Overwatch. I think it might have been longer than 6 months. That might just be because it felt like an eternity, though. It was definitely, like, way longer than she should have been. But, like, oh, there's a Hearthstone icon. There's a Hearthstone ad on the side right now, I've just noticed as well. Look at that. Yeah, so who knows how long, like, if Reaper's that bad, who knows how long you'll be there. Could be a week, could be a year, who knows. Life is difficult that way. SR Graph. Is there any tool app that I can use to see my ups and downs after each game visualized in a graph? I don't know if there's one that's out there that's like every individual game. So overbuff is like over time, but I don't know. My account doesn't let me look at those things anymore ever since the private icon, the private account thing. Even when I have it set to public, they just always tell me my account is private, so I don't know anymore. Yes, I've tried to fix it like 5 times. It's just, nope, this always tells me it's private, even when it's public. I'm a high gold, low plat player, and I play mostly Diva, Lucio, Zen, and Ana, but I love playing Rein, and I'm really bad at playing him. Don't worry, if you love playing Rein, that doesn't last long. I have mostly defensive playstyle, but when playing Rein, my favorite thing to do is swing that big-ass hammer. Yeah, I feel ya. I feel ya. And I have a more aggressive style when playing him, but I end up having problems adapting to that type of playstyle, as I don't know when to retreat. And at my elo, I can't count on my supports. What should I try if I want to keep that aggressive style, or should I just stop playing him? You're probably just way too aggressive. This is one of those posts that's a little bit on the vague side, but you are most likely just being way too aggressive. A lot of playing Reinhardt's holding the shield up, and like knowing when you're allowed to take the shield down, pretty much. Which is not super frequently, honestly. We all wish it was more. If you wanna, like, the most aggressive, like, try to temper the aggression. If you're gonna charge, try and, like, only charge a really short distance. You don't want to charge over long distances, because it just makes you way easier to stop, predict, react to, blah, blah, blah. So try and just, like, some real short distance charges if you're gonna charge. Just focus on, like, hitting people with Fire Strike as much as possible, and then Earth Shatter. And then you're allowed to be as aggressive as you want after you land the Earth Shatter. You know, it's one of those things where it'd be a lot easier to really say if there's a video attached, because there's a few different ways you can be too aggressive as Reinhardt. Because you can be not holding the shield up enough, you can be charging too much, you can be walking too far ahead of your team. You can be walking without your team, you know, you can be swinging when you're not allowed to be swinging right now, all kinds of things. There's a few different ways you can be too aggressive as Reinhardt. So, you know, and it could be all of the above at the same time, couldn't it? So, one of those ones where it's a little easier after seeing it. Is there anything else I have to do prior to submitting a VoD? Can someone tell me how to record footage for one of my matches? Use OBS. Like, you don't have to stream to use OBS, you can just record to the hard drive, and OBS is, like, super low on resources. Like, it's very easy to run, like, you can be running a potato, and it can pretty much handle running OBS and the game at the same time. You might have to drop the bitrate a little bit, depending on how bad your computer is, but, like, really straightforward program. Really low resources, very easy. Console, I don't know. Is there anything else I have to do prior to submitting my VODs? I mean, you can, every time you die, or you can think about how you died and what you could have done to prevent that. You can think like, alright, so when I just died, did I die because I made a bad decision? Or did I die because I fucked up on what I was trying to do and just failed to execute it correctly? And then adapt from there, because either way, you learn something different, right? Because if you made the good decision, but you executed it badly, then, hey, you know, that's great, because that just means you need to practice your execution next time you're in that situation, right? But if you made a bad decision, then you need to think, well, alright, so I should just not have done that. What should I have done instead? Or what steps could I have taken to have been in a different situation, right? Like, you can do that. You don't need to have a video for that. If you just, every time you die, you think about what happened and go, well, why did that happen? And then adapt from there. Why are people leaving after waiting 2-minute warning in comp? What do you mean? Or people in my team have left after playing the second match. I'm feeling rather apathetic about climbing. Both cases with a single person leaving. It's really hard to win 5v6. Like, it's very hard to win. So, just get on to the next game, basically. It's one of those things where, like, yeah, you could still win 5v6. Like, there's no reason you can't. But it is a lot harder, so it's just like, you could be there for like another 20 minutes, and like, your chances of winning are pretty low. So it's just like, just let go, move on to the next game. It's just about saving time. You have a really low chance of winning, you might still win, but I could just go play the next game that I have a better chance of winning, because it's 6v6, right? So, that's why. Dealing with Reaper, I'm a Winston main. If Reaper's really good, you're going to be in for a bad time. If Reaper is that good. I haven't really played, to be honest with you. So, I don't know how good Reaper is exactly. But, if Reaper's really good and you're a Winston main, it's going to be a problem to you. It's going to be a real bad problem for you. That might be the point you have to start playing a different hero if you're a Winston main, if Reaper becomes really good. Playing against Reapers that absolutely mow down everyone for handling red team Reapers. As Winston? No. That's the problem there. Winston doesn't deal well with Reaper, so you might just have to start playing like D.Va instead, you know? And even then, like, D.Va was never that good against Reaper anyway, but like, Winston ain't gonna do shit against the Reaper pretty much. Is Bob worth healing? Sometimes. So, like, Bob should never take priority over an actual human being, is pretty much the most straightforward way to put it. Like, Bob is less than every other person on your team. So, like, if nobody on your team needs healing, but Bob needs healing, go for it. If there's no, like, if you can't be, like, doing something more productive with your time, like killing somebody. Bob should never take priority over a human. But, so, if you need to heal a human, but otherwise, like, heal Bob. And yes, a human also includes Zenyatta. What is the correct play if your whole team grouped, but you missed out on stopping the payload and the enemy caps the checkpoint? But say Kings are our second checkpoint. If we group as defenders and get to the payload and it caps at the point at that point, what would be the correct play here? The attackers have a massive spawn advantage. I would say if you're already there, fight and die as a team on cart, don't retreat, just let them push for free and don't use ults. So I assume this means, like, you get to the point right as it gets captured. Try and back up, but you'll probably die regardless, you know? Like, retreat if you can, because there's no point fighting there if they just captured that checkpoint, because they captured the checkpoint, there's nothing to fight over anymore. So, like, try and back up, but, like, honestly, you'll probably die. Like, if you reach the objective right as they capture it, 9 times out of 10, your team just gets wiped, so try and die can, you know, try to just die together, pretty much, don't get staggered, but back out if you can. I assume that's what it means. Yeah, on the payload, just, and the, yeah. Yeah, try and back out if you can, but you'll probably die. Yeah, you don't want to stay and fight, you know. So back out if you can. A 5-point framework for improving your positioning in Overwatch. Is this a video? Oh, Jesus Christ. Do you have a escape plan? Can you take cover from enemy fire? Can you find healing quickly? Can you take advantage of high ground? Where is your team? I like how we don't have some of these. Am I within my hero's effective range? Can you take advantage of chokes? This should honestly be point 1, because choke points are really important in Overwatch. What's the URL? That's the URL. Because Lord knows I won't remember to link it, so there you go, if you want to look at that. Probably a stupid question, but when it comes to heroes like McCree, Hanzo, Widow, or even Ashe, to get good at nailing headshots, no. You don't need to be, like, only land headshots to be really good at the heroes. Obviously that helps, but no, there's other aspects of the hero. Like, Widow is the most straightforward, like, click the bad men hero. But even then, there's other things you can do with Widowmaker, like abusing lines of sight to pressure the enemy team. There's all positioning and all that still, so, like, no. That's not the only aspect of playing the heroes, and like Hanzo has utility attached to him, McCree has utility attached to him, Ashe has utility attached to her. Like, if a hero's got utility attached to them, it's not all just about clicking on the bad men. And you can just click on the bad man's body as well, even if you're playing Widow, right? People always like, oh, look at this Widow, she killed like 3 people with 3 headshots, what a god. If you shoot the bad man with a fully charged body shot, that's still most of their health. So if any kind of fight is happening at the same time, it's very easy for them to get finished off, right? Like, imagine you got a Winston or a Genji over there, and you shoot the bad man in his body. The Genji dashes through him and kills him. The Winston jumps on him and kills him, right? So, like, just because you didn't get the killing blow, doesn't mean that, like, the kill didn't happen because of you, right? So, no, it's not all about the headshot. Like, Ashe, if you hit the bad man in the body, that's still a lot of damage. McCree less so, because you need to shoot the bad man a few times, but even then, like, he has utility, right? Like, he's got Deadeye for zoning, he's got Flashbang for crowd control, Hanzo's got Sonic Arrow, he's got the ultimate, so, no, it's not all about the headshots. There's other things about the heroes still. Obviously, if you can land the headshots consistently, great, awesome. Never gonna be a bad thing to have on those heroes, but not the sole decider of success. Friendly reminder that video games are fun. No, they aren't. This guy. When's the last time you had fun playing a video game? Ugh, no. Absolutely not. Video games are about punishing yourself endlessly and making yourself feel bad. Even the single-player games, especially the single-player games. You ever played a Devil May Cry game? Go play a Devil May Cry game and feel bad. You get to the end of the stage and it gives you a D. You suck. Oh shit, I want to get the S now. You better play that stage fucking flawlessly. You get hit once, gone. No matter what you do, it makes you feel bad still. Please, I need help. Recording is so bad. Okay. Hey, look, he's using OBS. Great stuff. My brothers are constantly screaming. You don't... Okay, yeah. We're not going to watch the video right now. Contesting point in 2 CP when you shouldn't. You are in some battles to stop the enemy team from getting a tick, but this isn't always the right idea. It very frequently isn't if you're going to, like, still die. Like, if they're going to capture the objective, like, just stalling it for half a second, especially on a 2 CP map, ain't worth it. If you're playing in a game and you already know you're at a disadvantage in a fight and the enemy team is fighting for their first tick as a team, it's perfectly okay for you to disengage if you can, and give up a few ticks at the expense of giving yourself a better chance to win the next fight. Yeah, even if you're on the last checkpoint, right, if they've got to capture it from 0, and you've got people coming up behind you, like, it can be worth giving up a tick or 2 to wait to go in with them, because then at least you aren't running in by yourself to immediately die and then making them fight another man down. Yeah, you give up a tick or 2, but now you have a serious chance of winning the fight, rather than a significantly lower chance of winning the fight because you just threw your life away. It's one of those things where, like, yeah, you're not in a good situation, so you take the lesser of the 2 evils. You give up a little bit of the give up a little bit of the percentage just so that you have a better chance at winning the fight you do get. Yeah. Do that. Good. And if it's like the first checkpoint, like, don't worry about it that much, because, like, the first checkpoints on the 2 CP maps are, like, not the bulk of it, and, like, if you, because, like, the second checkpoints are always way harder to capture. Just because of the design of the map, right? You know, Hanamura first checkpoint, still hard to capture, so, you know, there's exceptions, but generally, second checkpoint's really easy to defend compared to the first. So, like, don't worry about it that much. And, like, if you fuck it up on the first checkpoint and stagger yourself, you can really easily just get snowballed on. So it's not worth the risk of that a lot of the time. So, you know, you're not in a good spot, but you take the lesser of the two evils, pretty much. What heroes are strong in low ranks? We talked about this earlier. Simple heroes that are easy to execute and have big impact. So Winston, D.Va, Bridget, Moira, Soldier. We also want the hero to be reasonably independent, if at all possible, which is why Soldier is a really good DPS as well, because he doesn't require really much support at all to do stuff. Any of the flankers, if you're good at them, but that's the caveat, right? Like, you need to be good at those. Yeah, so Winston, D.Va, Winston, Moira are my two big ones, because they're big impacts, really easy to play. Then D.Va, Bridget. And, like, those are the really big ones. DPS-wise, it's Soldier. I don't think anybody in low ranks compares to Soldier. Just because, like, if you got, like, just decent aim, and you abuse the high ground, like, that's great. Like, easy peasy, Soldier time. You don't need a healer, because you've got Biotic Field. You're pretty hard to kill. They won't dive you correctly, so you'll probably just be able to fight the person if they jump on you. They won't position well, so you can just shoot at them. Easy peasy. You got a fucking machine gun. Not exactly hard to use, really. Obviously, aim still a thing for Soldier, but less so than most other DPS. Mei also, because she's big impact, punishes people for doing dumb shit, which they'll do a lot. Yeah, those are the big ones, basically. They're just easy to play heroes with big impacts, basically. Because people always say pick a DPS, hard carry yourself. If you could hard carry yourself, you wouldn't be in bronze, right? So this is why I say easy to play heroes with big impacts. Because if you're in bronze, you're probably not, like, mechanically a god, right? So, like, just pick someone who's a little easier to boost you up to an SR where you can start to rely on your teammates a little bit more, and then you can focus on, like, improving your team play more at that point. Does anyone know when you can spectate someone? Basically, never. Widow main learning Ashe, need advice. Just feels void. I can swap back and forth from Widow and Ashe and McCree. The way McCree and Widow respond is very different from Ashe ADS. I know what you mean, but I never really played the other heroes that much. Well, I played McCree, but, like, yeah, I don't think of the two heroes as being very the same, so it wasn't much of an issue to me that they felt different. But I know what that means. Basically, like, you don't need to worry about your mobility when you're scoped as much, because you don't really get slowed a lot. So you can kind of just, like, ADS back and forth while scoped, trying to shoot a man, and that's pretty much, like, fine. You know, you can do, like, aim, peek a corner, take it down, aim, duck around, come back out, aim again. You can do all that, but, like, I don't really have any advice about that. Like, honestly, for Ashe, it's like, get really good at doing the dynamite, pretty much, because, like, depth perception is hard in this game for me for some reason. Because it's just, like, it's free damage, makes it really easy to build your ultimate, makes it easier to pick people off. And, like, it helps if you can recognize when somebody's gonna die to the dynamite, pretty much, because then you can just, like, turn your attention elsewhere. Because if you can shoot someone and hit them with a dynamite, they're gonna die. So if they are not in a position where they can get to healing, you can, or nobody can get to them to heal them, you can just start doing something else, and then they're gonna die, as long as, like, they don't manage to get to anything. So get good at, like, knowing when they're gonna die to your dynamite ticking on them, so you can just go and do something else, and then you're being more productive. than if you were just, like, trying to shoot the guy that's dead anyway. Trying to find opportunities to reload as much as possible, basically, because for me, the hardest part of playing Ashe is ammo management, because you don't want to ever be in the kind of position where you have to start reloading from, like, close to zero. Like, you run out of ammo in a fight, that's the worst situation you can find yourself in as Ashe, because it takes forever to reload. So there's a lot of just being like, well, I'm not likely to hit that guy, so I'm not really gonna bother, and even if I do hit him, like, it's not gonna accomplish a lot, probably, so I'll just take this time to reload a couple bullets instead, and then shoot, and then start shooting at people when I have a better odds of hitting them. Ashe benefits a lot from having some trigger discipline. Bind hello to an easy-to-reach button, because if you say hello while you're reloading, cancels the animation. And you just immediately get to fire again. So, and that, like, if you start reloading and you're like, oh shit, I actually need to be shooting, hello, and then easy, start shooting again immediately, so it's hard to get punished for it. That did still work previously, unless the most recent patch changed that, but I don't remember seeing anything about it. So bind hello somewhere convenient, so you can use that, and just, like, any opportunity, like, nobody's in line of sight, reload a bullet or two. You're not likely to hit the guy because he's 1,000 miles away or it's a weird angle. Just take a moment to reload instead, because it's terrible if you're in a position where you need to reload. And, like, get good at aiming Bob, which is more of a skill than it seems like it should be. Because, like, getting Bob to stop in a convenient location can be difficult sometimes, because he goes until he hits a hero or a wall. So, if you're not careful, you can have him just running off into a corner, and now he won't do anything at all. So, aiming Bob is kind of a skill in and of itself, as stupid as this sounds. Also, when Bob hits somebody, knocks them up into the air, that's when they're easiest to hit. So, like, if you chuck Bob into a group of people, get ready to try and shoot them out of the air, because they can't, it strips control from them unless they have mobility options, basically. So it makes it a lot easier to hit them. Yeah, that's all I got for you on Ashe, basically, because I haven't got much on the ADS thing, to be honest with you. I know what you mean about it, I just don't really know what to say, you know? When to use Moira over Ana? Basically, you just have to want to play Moira, as far as I'm concerned. Ashe is just kind of better. On console, I'm told Moira's better than Moira's better than Ana. Just because it's harder to aim on console, so I'm informed. But, like, we're talking PC. Ana's, like, basically always better than Moira is. This is the thing with Moira, is that, like, she's never going to be the worst hero you can choose, but she's also never going to be the best hero you can choose. Moira's biggest problem is how well-rounded she is. Because, like, you think about all the other healers, they have very clearly defined weaknesses, but they also have something they're really good at, right? Like, they excel at something. Whereas Moira excels at nothing, but she also isn't terrible at anything at the same time. So, you know, like, you pretty much just have to want to play Moira. Like, I'll choose to play Moira just because I like playing Moira more than I like playing Ana, right? So I'll pick Moira anyway, just because she's the hero I like more. But, like, if we're talking purely, like, hero pick-wise, Ana's better than Moira on paper. You just have to want to play Moira, pretty much. What are your typical stats on a decent Ana? My highest healing in one game with her is about 12k, compared to nearly 18k on Mercy. There's a lot of fluctuation you can have. The average for Ana is probably somewhere like between 12k and 15k, assuming the match goes for a decent length of time. If the match doesn't go for very long, you'll probably only get like 8k. And if it goes really long, it should go over 20k, no problem. Yeah, like, it's one of the, like, stats can fluctuate so much. Like, what is a good stat depends so much on the game at the time. The average good healing is probably, like, between 12 and 15k for an Ana. Maybe a little lower than that. But, like, somewhere in that range. I mean, eliminations varies really heavily. you know, accuracy, general metric, like, if it's above 50%, above 50%, it's good, pretty much. But even then, like, depending on your team comp, like, it can depending on, like, how hard your team is to hit, basically. It can fluctuate. Because this is something that you have to bear in mind with accuracy in general in the game. Like, if you're playing a game that's, like, they're all tanks, basically, like, you're playing against goats and you have an accuracy of, like, 70%, that's actually not very impressive if they were running goats, because they're all very easy to hit people, basically. They have a lot of tanks and big boys. Whereas if they're playing, like, 5 flankers, suddenly an accuracy of 40% actually becomes pretty decent, because they're playing a lot of very hard-to-hit heroes, and you've still managed to hit them almost half the time, which is pretty good if they're all hard to hit. So, like, that one can vary a lot. 6 to 10 enemies slept. People usually have a lot higher than that, but people also usually just sleep people for no reason at all, so, like, 6 to 10 is probably, like, about the reasonable amount of, like, meaningful sleeps you'll get most of the time. Because getting, like, an actually impactful sleep is kind of hard. They have to be in kind of a specific setup. Like, I've seen people who have like, slept, like, 20 people in a game, right? Like, but most of those trank darts didn't convert into anything, so it's not really, like, it doesn't really mean anything that they got that many, because only, like, a third of them actually did anything, right? Yeah. 6k healing seems low to me compared to most of the other healers. Yeah, even an off healer will do more than 6k. I guess 6k is like the person's average. Highest in one game is 12k. So I guess 6k is closer to the average. Oh, in a typical game, I'll heal... I just didn't read it properly. That's my problem. Right at the start there, in a typical game, I'll heal 6k. 6k is really low for Ana. Like, that's really, really low. Like, an off healer will do more than that, no problem. Like, if a Zenyatta said he got 6k, I'd be like, what did you do all the game? Right? Like, yeah, it should be a lot higher than that on average. Like, the highest you've done is closer to what I'd say the average should be. I just didn't read that properly. That's my bad. Reaper is not OP. Changed my mind. I mean, how many people complained at him is what I'm really interested in right here. He's not OP, he's just a fucking prick. That sounds realistic. I don't really see the drama. McRight-clicking Reapers. Yeah, I mean, when I see the people going on about Reaper being overpowered, I'm like, yeah, he heals more, and they nerfed armor, so great, but, like, Reaper still has all the problems attached to Reaper, which is that, like, if your team has any kind of mobility or crowd control, Reaper gets fucked, pretty much, right? The thing is, you know, it's one of those things that, like, Reaper is really good at punishing people for being bad, which is why I like Reaper as well. I also like heroes that just, like, push people around. Play League of Legends, I really love playing heroes like Jax, because they're just really good at, like, they're bruisers, they fight people. He's like, go in and bully someone, pretty much. I love heroes like that. So I've always liked Reaper. First hero I ever played when I played Overwatch. Very first hero, Reaper. Like, he gets fucked by, like, pharmacy, get fucked, right? Like, high mobility team, get fucked, you just leave. A lot of crowd control, get fucked, right? So, like, all these people saying they're OP, I'm like, that's very surprising to me if, like, Reaper actually is OP, just because, like, they never changed the thing, like, the Reaper issue, which is just that, like, you know, if people are bad, people are gonna get killed by Reaper, pretty much. So, like, it shouldn't be surprising to me that people are saying that, because, I mean, I've seen people talk about Bridget, haven't I? Is Moira a real healer or an off support? She's a main healer. Yeah, like, if you're talking off healer, literally any other healer is better at being an off healer than Moira, because Moira just doesn't have a lot of utility. This is another issue for Moira, right? Like, all she does is heal and click and, like, do mild damage to people, right? So, like, if you're talking off healers, like, Mercy's a better off healer, Ana's a better off healer, because, like, Mercy's damage boost, really good. Ana does respectable damage if given the opportunity to do so, right? Like, not incredible damage, but she does, like, she can kill a Pharah quickly, right? Like, every other healer is a better off healer than Moira is. And Ana's a better main healer than Moira is. As someone who loves Moira, there's just not a lot of reason to pick Moira, to be honest with you. A stupid idea for Goats meta. Would a version of Goats but with DPS work? Before you mock me, it would have Doomfist, Reaper, and Mei, so all of the beefy boys, basically. Probably not, but to be honest with you, still just have very minor experience with Goats. So, I'm constantly losing ranked games, and I'm not sure why. Oh, God. The reason... skimming... My best heroes are Soldier, McCree, Hanzo, Mercy, Ana, Junkrat, Reinhardt. I'm maining too many heroes. Tanking is probably my worst role. Which is why my most competitive hours are on Reinhardt. Ooh, some relatable content right here. That's why I ended up being a Reinhardt main. I just had to. The harder it gets to play him effectively, I disagree, but I mean, you know, maybe that's a little rich for me to say as someone who got to Masters playing Reinhardt, right? Like, I don't think it's bad playing Reinhardt at lower ranks. One match I played Zarya, had 3 grabs in 1 round, had 5 Dragon Strikes and didn't use a single one to combo. It could be that the grabs were not good, so I won't speak on that. When I do get to play DPS, I have decent stats. I can't do a whole lot with them. What could possible reasons for what could be possible reasons for this? But I rarely overextend. My positioning could be worked on, but I rarely overextend. Always use cover and all that. Well, it seems weird that your positioning is, like, good, but you're also, like, you need to work on your positioning, but you don't overextend and always have cover. Seems doubtful that both of those statements are true at the same time. I have a general idea of what ultimates the enemy has and roughly when they want to use them. I never go in alone, I always group up, I make efficient calls in my opinion. The only way I can think of improving is on said skills. Like, you know, the kind of post always bothers me. It's like, I just don't know what to do. I position good. I could work on my positioning, but my position's good. I always group up. I never go in alone. I know what ults they've got and when they want to use them. It's like, alright, okay, so you've come to me for your job interview now, and oh, you seem weirdly talented at everything, don't you? How strange. Your weakness also seems like something that you've changed to be a strength. Oh, my weakness? Yeah, it's that I'm too talented, honestly, you know? Yeah, I mean, you play a lot of heroes, but I mean, that's not necessarily a big deal. Yeah, post a video. There we go. Easy peasy. How to deal with Reaper post-buff. Top tiers of CTF. CTF placement seems scuffed. Who cares? How long have we been here? Oh, good job. Good job, team. Alright, so thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Oh, God. And I hope you found the video helpful.